Section 1. Avidyayam bahudha vartamana vayam kritartha iti abhimanyanti balaha yat karmino na pravedayanti ragat tena turakshina lokas chavante. Avidyayam bahudha vartamana, which means ignorance in all its multifarious forms. One who lives in this ignorance, that bala, those foolish childish people, vayam kritartha iti abhimanyanti, they think that they have already attained the ends of life, that they are already very satisfied with their life. So they think like that. They don't know yat karmina ragat pravedayanti, na pravedayanti, which means though they who are devoted to sacrifices and sakam sacrifices, which means with desires attached to the works they do not know that they are being impelled by their own passions and attachments. And such people, so they will not know the truth of Brahman. They will not get the knowledge of Brahman. Tena kshina loka atura chavante. What will they obtain then as a result of these sacrifices? They will obtain worlds of enjoyment according to their works, which are again kshina, which means which again come to an end very quickly. This idea is there even in the Bhagavad Gita. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti, which means at the end of a certain period of time, they have to leave those worlds of enjoyment and come back to this earth again and again start striving to move upward in their lives, because you see, any form of karma can only give you worlds of enjoyment. They can't take you into the heart of knowledge. This is the message being given. And so these atura, these dejected people, only come down from the worlds of enjoyment, and again they enter this cycle of birth and death. They enter the cycle of transmigratory existence. They are not liberated. So those who think and commit themselves only to works, they end up nowhere. They may have done a lot of good works, that is what they are saying, but as a result they will get higher realms of enjoyment according to their works, but they are not going to get the ultimate knowledge of Brahman. So they neither enter into Krama Mukti nor into Jeevan Mukti. So this is a fruitless enterprise finally. That is the Tatparya, the meaning of the mantra. So let me go into the meaning once more. Engrossed in the ways of the ignorant, the people who are committed only to sacrifices, they childishly think that they have gained the ends of life, but being subject to passions and attachment, they never attain knowledge, and therefore they sink down wretched when the fruits of their good deeds are exhausted. So last class we did discuss these realms of existence, isn't it? Whenever you perform work towards a particular end, which means it has a selfish purpose, it will give you only this much. It will give you for some time, according to your punya, it will give you a realm of greater enjoyment, something like a 10-star hotel maybe, where all enjoyments are available at once. But once the merit of your good deeds is exhausted, the karma phal is exhausted, you come back to this earth. So you have hardly learnt your lesson. Right here, please try to understand that any experience on the material plane, physical pleasure, it is very, very limited. If you have a 10-course meal on 3 days continuously, 4th day you will not want such a meal. This is in the very nature of life. So once you have understood this, once you have understood the hedonic treadmill experience, that pleasure never satisfies. In fact, it will leave you hankering for more, and at the same time it will make the object of the previous enjoyment repulsive. This is the nature of pleasure, the pleasure cycle. So once you understand this, will you aim at just this much out of life, that you travel to some other world of enjoyment and after that you crash back down to earth? No, you will search for greater knowledge. What gives me greater satisfaction and fulfillment? Isn't it? So, what this mantra is a call to wake up, to grow up, because you should not remain childish like this. This is what the mantra says, that you can't foresee the end of the karma phal which is born of good works. Okay, good works are mandatory in order to create good sanskars in you. But if you are only aiming at where will I go as a result of this, you will hardly go anywhere, because it will be only a temporary period of enjoyment in some realm, and then you come back here. You have to start from ABC all over again. So the importance of knowledge is being insisted, see, through all these mantras. The next one is connected to this mantra. Please see, mantra number 10. Ishta purtam manyamana varishtham nanyat shreyo vedayante pramudhaha nakasya prishthe te sukrute anubhutva imam lokam hinataram va vishanti. Oh, this is so beautiful. You see, he says Ishta Purtam. Now, these are technical terms. Ishta means those duties which are incumbent on the Brahmin householder in the Vedic way of life. It includes an austere life, and then feeding guests, feeding animals, performing yajnas, study of scriptures. It includes all of this. So, this falls under Ishta. There is something called Ishta Agnihotra also. So, it is a technical term to mean the good life, the austere life. Purtam. Purtam means it is the good works which Brahmin householders, Kshatriya householders were supposed to perform as mandatory in Vedic society. What were these works like? In those days, you see, they would, Purta included digging wells for the welfare of all the villagers so that everyone could get water, feeding elderly, feeding those who are afflicted, feeding those who lack food, the beggars, and then constructing guest houses where people who are travelers, traveling from one place to another, can rest, planting trees. All of this comes under Purta. So, they are all good works, very good. But if you rely only on this to get the highest knowledge, that is not enough. This is what the mantra will tell us. See, it says, Ishta Purtam Manyamana Varishtham. Those men who fancy that sacrificial works and charitable works will get them the highest, Varishtham. They know not the truth, because na anyat shreyo vedayanti pramudha. They are those deluded fools who do not know better. They think this is the highest. So, pramudha, strong word has been used here. Prakrishtena mudha, specially deluded they are. Nakasya prishthe te sukrute anubhutva, which means Nakasya prishthe, the highest heavenly regions. They can be the result of your virtuous deeds, but they are after all seats of sensual enjoyments. And after the exhaustion of those deeds, the fruits of those deeds, they come back to this very world. Imam lokam hinataram va vishanti. They will come back. This is human frailty, you see. Just imagining that this is something higher, but finally they come back to this very world and enter back the cycle of birth and death, and with very poor experience at hand. So, you see, it is connected to the previous mantra. Even the highest realms of what works can get you, which is nothing but heavenly enjoyments. You know, the popular picture of heaven, after all, what kind of a place is it? Where you have all the good food without cooking it, without having to cook it. You have all sorts of celestial enjoyments around you. You have all the music and dance and everything that you might aspire for. So, this kind of a life, to what extent can it satisfy you? Where there is no exertion, there is no development, there is no unfoldment of awareness. So, this will only dull life, isn't it? Think and see. Heaven appears to be a very cheap thing after all, because it is only to do with exaggerated sensual enjoyment. How much can it satisfy you? So this is something we have to think deeply about. What leads to what? When I have performed action with desire for the fulfillment of my selfish ends, it may be good action only, but I had the ego in view. So it will give me only this much. The karma phal of that action will only give me more enjoyment for some time, a short time. And it will bring me back into this cycle of existence. So I better learn to develop knowledge. I better learn to see life more deeply, more acutely, so that my aims will not be so feeble. My aims will not be so small. Even Dr. Abdul Kalam, he would say, a small aim is a crime. So when you are performing all these works with a small aim, well, you bring yourself to naught actually. So that is the meaning of the mantra. Let me just read it once more. Those deluded men who fancy sacrifices and charitable works to be the highest, they know not better. Having reaped the fruit of their virtuous deeds in the highest heavens, the seeds of sensual enjoyments, they fall into their old human life or into what is lower still. You know, heaven can crash you into hell also. For the simple reason you got so used to the sensuality of the place, you can't think of anything else. You have dulled life beyond measure, which means your vitality has been taken away by the sensual pursuits. So you will land up in hell then. There's a direct path, you know, from heaven to hell. So take care. Become alert and alive to the purpose of your life. And don't give in to all these imaginary pursuits. This is what they are saying. But again, I would like to point out, remember, if you perform nishkam karma, the whole trajectory changes. It is not karma that we have to give up, but the desire for the fruit of that action. Because all the time you will be performing karma. You know, until you learn to transcend thought, everything you do is karma. Even your thinking, your emoting, your willing, your sacrifices, what you do with your motor organs and your sense organs, everything is karma. If you don't have a list attached to it, if it is not sakam, it will take you to this level of knowledge. So nishkam karma is the solution and not sakam karma. And karma itself, all these sacrifices and all of that, all of what you can do can be a huge trap if you don't understand the secret of nishkam karma. So this is the idea behind all these mantras. Let's go to the 11th one. Tapas shraddhe ye hi upavasanti aranye shanta vidvamso bhaiksha charyam charanta surya dvarena te viraja prayanti yatramrita sa purusho hi avyayatma. Oh, this is also a tremendous mantra. What is it telling us? See, tapas shraddhe ye hi upavasanti aranye. Those who have developed this spirit of tapasya, austerity, and shraddha, deep, devout faith in the path of knowledge, those who live like this, and they are shanta and vidvamsa, bhaiksha charyam charanta. So those who live in the forest, in solitude, leading a life of austerity and devout worship, and who are peaceful, shanta is peaceful, wise, vidvamsa is wise here, and bhaiksha charyam charanta, following the vow of mendicancy, which means, well, not that they are advocating mendicancy, what they mean to say is, they are living such a life that what they require comes to them. What they require in the form of alms, you can say, it actually comes to them. And charanta, those who live such a life with tapas and shraddha, so these stainless men, viraja means they are purged of all impurities, all rajas, they are viraja, without rajas. They are pure sattvic souls. So these stainless men, where do they go? They are not going to go to those worlds of enjoyment, you see, because they have given up enjoyments. They go to Surya Dwarena, by the path of the sun. See, this is something, it's a mystical expression of the Devayan, that is the way of the gods. They go through that path which leads to the realm of higher beings. Here by gods are meant that they don't go to the realm of sensual enjoyments. They evolve to the path of higher beings where they will find, they will arrive at the immortal being, the Purusha, Brahman, who is Avyayatma, who is ever imperishable. They will arrive at the imperishable, permanent Brahman through this manner, through the golden gate of the sun, which means through the Devayan. So, mention of these things is there even in the Bhagavad Gita, which means if one has truly regulated one's life, one's vital energies, purified one's mind, led a life of complete, a devout life, immersed in God consciousness, one will obviously reach God, isn't it? If one lives a life of desire and greed, do you think one will reach the same destiny? So these two paths are being described, please see. This mantra will tell us those who are genuinely devout and one who has committed himself to the higher life here. And as a result, he becomes a mendicant. He is not a one who chases desires. He has given up that kind of life. He reaches the immortal being, Brahman itself, through this way of life. So here the characteristic life of the austere mendicant is being described. This is Mundaka Upanishad, you see. So they are describing the highest which a man can aspire to. But again, you please remember, one cannot reach the path of Naishkarmya, going beyond activity, by giving up activity. You can do it only by good works done unselfishly, selflessly, and leading at the same time leading a life like this, completely devoted to the highest ideal, and the knowledge born of this process will lead you to the highest. So this is again the message of the Bhagavad Gita, what I am giving you. Lord Krishna puts it very beautifully, you know. He says that only the childlike souls think that the Sankhya and Yoga are different. No, 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 they are deeply connected. Even Swami Vivekananda gave this out as the practical message of the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. Please remember, the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Upanishads. So there you find a very consolidated form of all these mantras. And directly Lord Krishna is telling us that combine work and knowledge, but selfless work. Nishkam karma and knowledge. Nishkam karma will never lead you into bondage, because you can't but work. You have an equipment which is functioning by the very nature of Prakriti. What will you do? So develop your spiritual life, the higher life, in this manner. So you see, the mendicant's life, the austere life, the devout life, with a good foundation of good works performed unselfishly, will lead you to the highest. This is the meaning, the 11th mantra. Here I would also like to point out, see, all these mantras of the Upanishads, they are talking about Krama Mukti, which means the gradual emancipation of the Jiva, the individual soul, towards the highest. It's a gradual process. They are telling you, you see, this is the kind of life required, this is the kind of mental makeup required to reach the highest. So this is called Krama Mukti, a gradual emancipation. But the goal of Vedanta is not just Krama Mukti, it is Jeevan Mukti, which means here and now, through the process of insight and inquiry, you can touch the highest. Then you live like a Jeevan Mukta, one liberated in this very life, There's no going to some other realm, doing tapasya there and then going to the realm of Brahman. No. Brahmalok, what you are calling Brahman, can be touched right here if you have that sharpness of intellect, that purity of intellect, which will bring knowledge to you right where you are. So this is the Jeevan Mukti ideal of Vedanta. And if you actually see it for what it is the direct way. It is a direct path to liberation. And this is recommended by Vedanta. Krama Mukti, this gradual process, you will find it mentioned here and there like in these mantras. But the goal which the Upanishads point towards is Jeevan Mukti. There is no post-mortem liberation as such. Because after death, according to your karma, you may be carried into other realms. But you can actually leave out this, bypass this entire thing, traveling, if you attain to knowledge right here. And this is a possibility through the path of knowledge. So Jeevan Mukti is actually the ideal of Vedanta. There's a book also on that, Jeevan Mukti Vivek. And if you read Shankara's commentaries, he points out to Jeevan Mukti always. Here and now you can be liberated if you generate the insight which reveals the knowledge of Brahman through the path of inquiry and meditation. So this is the actual theme, the goal, you can say, of Vedanta. All Vedantic mantras, all the mantras you find in the Upanishads. Let's go to mantra number 12. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedam ayat nasti akrita kritena tad vijnartham sa gurum eva abhigachet samitpani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. So karmachitan, having scrutinized all the worlds which karma can get you, karmachitan lokan, which means those worlds which are attainable through works. Pariksha, having examined them, the Brahmana, the man of spiritual inclination, Nirvedam, develops an indifference and dispassion. He should get this because he is trying to get the akrita kritena. He is trying to get that which cannot be created or got by works through works. He is trying to do that. So he finally understands that this is not the way. You cannot get the absolute by these means. So he scrutinizes everything that is possible for him, that these works will lead to these particular worlds of existence and this is how I can proceed. He sees through all this and he finally develops a dispassion for all of this. And then what does he do? What should he do? Tad vijnanartham, then to get the knowledge of the ultimate, of the Atman, Sa Samitpani, he will proceed with sacrificial fuel in his hand. Samit is the sacrificial fuel, firewood sticks of a particular kind. So that was symbolic of wanting the highest knowledge. So the student would carry this to his guru, which means I want the knowledge of Brahman, kindly teach me. And then whom will he approach with these sticks in hand? Shrotriyam, one who is well versed in the Vedas, one who is the man of the highest learning, and Brahmanishtam. He is also one who is established in Brahman. See, Brahmanishta means you have developed a mindset which does not move you away from the truth. That is Brahmanishta. So a guru who is like this, he approaches him. He should approach him. That is the idea. Abhigachet, which means he should go with Samitpani in hand, with the Samit sticks in hand, to a guru who is well versed in the Vedas and established in Brahman. So let's go through the meaning once again. The 12th mantra. Having scrutinized the worlds gained by deeds, a man of spiritual inclination should become indifferent to them. For deeds which are originated cannot win the Supreme, who is unoriginated. Therefore, to know that, let him become a pupil under a preceptor who is both learned in the scripture and established in the spirit, established in the Atman. So many people ask this question, is a guru required? Why such and such a saint or seed did not have a guru? So is he required? See, Swami Gambhirananda Ji, who was the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna, he would say, even to learn the art of thieving, you require a guru. Even to become a good pickpocket, you require a teacher. Then to get the highest wisdom, don't you require an illumined soul? You know, the words of the illumined are so powerful and their mental vrittis are so transforming that if you just stay close to them, you will know the power of it. Otherwise, our mind is moving at a tangentially different way in so many directions. So the guru brings all your mental energies together, and by the power of his mind, he helps you conquer your mind. So it's a great blessing to get a spiritual preceptor who is like this, established in this knowledge. This is the science of sciences, isn't it? Brahma Vidya. So if you can find a person, an illumined mind whom you can connect with, I think that is the great blessing of life. So this is what the mantra says, and the next one also, that mantra, the last one, 13th mantra is connected to this. So let us go into that and then we will stop here. Tasmai sa vidvan upasannaya samyak prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya yenaksharam purusham veda satyam provachatam tattvato brahma vidyam iti prathama mundake dvitiya khandaha. So this finishes the Pratham Mundak, but what does this mantra say? Tasmai sa vidvan, to such a seeker, upasannaya samyak, who, what kind of a seeker? Prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya, one who is deeply tranquil in mind and senses. See the essential conditions for the knowledge of Brahman. So such a seeker whose mind and senses are controlled and tranquil, he should approach in a proper form whom? A vidwan, a learned guru. For what? Yenaksharam purusham veda satyam provachatam tattvato brahma vidyam, to learn the science of sciences. Let him approach in this proper form, a wise teacher, so that he may acquire this science of sciences. Isn't the Brahma Vidya like that? We have discussed this many times. Brahma Vidya Sarva Vidya Pratishtham. It is the basis of all Vidyas. It is the support of all Vidyas. It is only through consciousness that you can penetrate into any other objective knowledge, isn't it? That is why this is the science of sciences. So he should approach, let such a one approach a teacher who is able to impart to him the science of Brahman in its very essence, and provachatam, who will tell him that secret, tattvato brahma vidyam, the very tattva of the Brahma Vidya, the very essence of the science of sciences, Brahma Vidya, one who will be able to impart to him. Let this learned pupil approach such a guru. The conditions for the pupil are, he should be tranquil in mind and senses. See, an overthinking mind, a mind which is judgmental, critical, or a mind which is wrongly conditioned, biased, prejudiced, such a mind cannot connect, will not even be able to identify the guru. So that is why the preconditions for the disciple are being spoken of here. Prashanta chittaya shamanvitaya. He should be of prashanta chitta, very calm in mind and tranquil in senses. His senses should be well guided. He is not a seeker after pleasure or desires. His senses have turned away from that. It has turned away from the ephemeral. It has turned away from the impermanent. Such a one, if he approaches a man of knowledge, he will be able to get this science of sciences, the Brahma Vidya. So this is an invitation to dive into the heart of knowledge through the Upanishad. If we are serious about spiritual life, you will try to grasp these things in the first person. Not because somebody is telling it or the Upanishad is telling it, but it is my own understanding and my own hankering, How can I not want to know my true being? How can I not want to know, discover my soul? So then Brahma Vidya starts. So next class onwards, it will be all Brahma Vidya. Just now let's go into the questions we have for this class. The first question is, does unsolicited grace exist? In shadow of Ma Sharda's compassion, many of her disciples achieved similar, or others achieved the grace by doing japa and tapa. Is it a miracle of grace or their past life karma? See, if I tell you that it is all karmic that you get this, then what is the role of grace? Grace means that which does not depend on any other factor, isn't it? That is what we call grace. So unsolicited grace exists, and it comes directly from the incarnations of God. There is no doubt about this. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, you are living in the wind of grace. You set forth your sail. Karma is to do that. Karma is not to get the grace. Grace, the winds of grace are already blowing. You know, just now we are in these Himalayan, in the lap of the Himalayas, in Pangot, and the wind is always constantly blowing here. The wind of grace is like that. It is constantly blowing. You have to set forth your sail in order to move in a particular direction, move towards your destination. So don't doubt grace in your life. In Ma Sharda's life, yes, you are saying that some disciples achieved it through her grace and some through their own effort. So what is the truth here? See, the fact of your effort also is due to grace. Do you understand this? If God's grace wasn't there, your mind would not incline towards all this constantly. So grace is ever there. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna himself. The wind of grace is always blowing. So don't discount grace ever in your life. Even when you are in harsh circumstances, remember the wind of grace is blowing. I must choose the right direction by connecting deeply with that grace. So for that there is spiritual practice, there is karma yoga, there is bhakti yoga, all this is there. But don't doubt the presence of grace in your life. If grace was not there, you would not be there. We live in grace, we breathe in grace, and it is God's world, not yours or mine. So acknowledge the divine presence all around you always and work your way towards your spiritual advancement. But don't doubt the grace of God. This is the mature way a spiritual life lives, a spiritual aspirant lives. Sri Ramakrishna always recommended Jnana Mishrita Bhakti, which means you believe in grace, at the same time you put in the self-effort required for your spiritual growth. This is Jnana Mishrita Bhakti. So never discount grace in your life, or don't doubt it. Is it there or not? It is ever there. It's a matter of recognition, that's all. You must recognize its presence in everyday life. That this question only arises because you don't acknowledge the bounties of your life. Each one of us is living only because a whole lot of things are working for us. You don't acknowledge that on an everyday basis. That is why you start doubting whether God's grace is there. Every day acknowledge it. Look at the air we are breathing, the water we are taking in, the food that is coming before you. Acknowledge the ability to act as you want. All the people who have helped you build your life. Do you thank them on an everyday basis? If you did that, if you were full of gratitude, you would understand unsolicited grace. Because we don't have this tendency to be grateful, we don't understand grace. So change your mindset. This is an attitude, and it must be cultivated for a mature spiritual life. Otherwise, there is only brooding and complaining and blaming and all this nonsense. You are living in heaven, but you are converting it into hell by judging, blaming, criticizing, complaining. So keep away from all that by being grateful and being full of gratitude always, and you will see grace ever exists. I have told you positive thinking principles many times. Your whole day should go in positive thinking and meditation, and then everything will be clear to you. Don't waste energy on any form of negativity. Like this question, is there grace or no grace? It should not arise. Develop such a state of mind. The second question is how to maximize our willpower and do what we want to do, defeating our bad sanskars which we have attained by birth or other influences. See, this is a practical question. How do we make our willpower work? Because many times, you have a particular will, you want to move in a particular direction, but you will see your life is moving in the opposite direction. Janami dharmam nacha me pravrittim. You know who said this? Janami adharmam nacha me nivrittim. It was said by Duryodhan in the brink of the war, on the eve of the war, when Bhishma Pitama tells Duryodhan, you idiot, it's because of you that this war is taking place. Do you realize that? Then Duryodhan gives a very cold reply. He says, I know, grandfather, you don't worry. Janami dharmam. Nacha me pravrittim. I know what is right, I know dharma, righteous conduct, but I have no inclination to do it. That is my problem. See, failure of willpower. And janami adharmam. I know what is adharma, but nacha me nivrittim. But I can't desist from it. So, you see, when is it that our will does not work and the sanskars take over? It is only when you have generated such a level of negative sanskars that they overpower your will. So, at crucial moments in your life, you can't take the right decision although you know what is the right thing to do. This is a very important concept, incentive salience. You know something will not satisfy you, but you are seeing your life is moving in that direction only and you can't turn back. So why this failure happens is because negative sanskars have overpowered willpower. So you must clean up the mind at all cost. Turn all your energies towards that. As long as the human subconscious and unconscious are filled with rubbish and badly conditioned thought and emotion, this is what will happen. Even if you know the right thing to do, you cannot do it. You know a wrong thing is wrong, you can't desist from it. It's a helpless state. The next step is addiction, frustration, and finally depression. So, the way to maximize willpower is on an everyday basis, you should do these anusankalpas, which means small ways of exercising your will. I will get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, say. I will have my breakfast on time. I will make sure I spend 3 to 4 hours in concentrated study. I will never miss my morning and evening meditation. Anusankalpas. Go by a routine. It is not meant to restrict your freedom. It is meant to unravel your creative capacities. When you regulate external life, the internal life blossoms. This much you should understand. In school, if this is taught, this would be very good. You know, nowadays they are introducing this into a number of institutions. How to change our habits. What constitutes habit? What is an anusankalpa? How to stick to it? You must stick to it no matter what happens. The anusankalpa, you can always stick to it. Gradually your mind becomes capable of bigger sankalpas, which means what it will do that. It will move in that direction. Nothing can stop it. So then you have become a gigantic willpower in the world. You can do many things. It's all the power of the mind. You start with small things, there's a cumulative effect, it becomes big. So willpower can be developed, but you must take care of the sanskars, the impressions in your mind, due to your sense intake, due to your associations, due to all the influences in your life. That is why I always recommend good exposures, good company, holy company if possible, and association with good books. This is so very important for spiritual growth. So, willpower can be maximized by practice of anusankalpas. Please remember. Then we have, can daily chanting of the Gayatri mantra be sufficient to attain Brahman? Can it substitute other meditation techniques? Gayatri alone is sufficient. Because what is it a prayer for? It is a prayer for Dhi, which means may my intellect be illumined by the Supreme, by Brahman. So, our only problem is the clouding of the intellect, isn't it? When we study Jnana Yoga, the only problem is ignorance, not that Brahman is absent. Brahman is ever present. You are not able to see him because of the clouds in your mind. Just like how you see the sun is ever present. But when do you call it a cloudy day? When the sun has been covered by clouds. Not that the sun is absent. So also Brahman is never absent. The Dhi Shakti has not developed. The Buddhi is clouded. So Gayatri is a prayer to uncover this luminosity of your intellect so that you may intuit what is ever there. So Gayatri alone is sufficient. In fact, at one particular time, you see this Upanayana ceremony. It was actually a kind of entry into the highest spiritual life through the Gayatri. Through the mantra, Gayatri is a prayer cum mantra for the highest knowledge of Brahman. And Gayatri will remove all the obstacles which come on this path towards Brahman. That is the power of the Gayatri mantra. So just chanting of the Gayatri, if you are already doing it, please continue doing it. Nothing else is required. If you are not doing it, you must properly learn how to do it and continue the practice. Gayatri alone is sufficient. You want to supplement it with other techniques, you can do it. But you don't require to substitute it with other techniques. Please don't do that. Gayatri is Veda Mata. She is a goddess. She is the goddess of knowledge and wisdom. So you don't have to substitute wisdom for something else. No technique is as powerful as Gayatri. If you do it, Gayatri, Purascharan and all this, if you do, you will know the power. So there's no question of substituting it with anything else. The fourth question is, why do some of us continue with elaborate puja rituals, leaving less time for japa and meditation? See, puja rituals have their own deep effect on the mind, which you may not realize at the time of the puja. At the time of the puja, you are thinking, oh, my 1 hour is going away in this puja. What am I getting out of it? Is it the right method I am following? But, if you perform puja rituals for long time I mean not extended periods of time, same day, but every day if you practice some small form of puja, you will see it has changed your subconscious after some time, because the sentiment you invoke every day, that of worship, that of prayer, that of offering yourself, surrender to the divine, these create deep sanskars in your mind, deep imprints are created, and it will usher in bhakti, devotion, knowledge by itself. So this is the actual beauty of ritual. It deconditions your mind. The wrongly conditioned mind is totally deconditioned, and it helps you develop the good sanskars for the higher life. So it has its own value. But if you are thinking that, well, it's too long and rather I would meditate, so this can happen, then please reduce the time of the ritual and increase the time of meditation. That is perfectly all right, because after all, you are meditating on the same God whom you are worshipping. So that is okay, but ritual has tremendous value. In fact, Vivekananda used to say, great spiritual giants have been produced where there has been an immense flourishing of rituals, because it is an unconscious way to change your subconscious. So don't give up puja and all these things at home. See, although we may be following the path of knowledge, still you must use all these powerful aids in order to transform the mind and unravel consciousness. Without this, in fact, you can't proceed. Because what we are calling the path of inquiry, that requires a very solid, stable intellectual base, which comes through ritual, puja and all these things. It requires very purified emotion, which comes through puja. So how can you dispense with it? It is a necessary element of spiritual life. If you haven't already done it, please keep a separate room where you can worship God with the purest of your emotions. Even a small form of worship is okay. The inner sentiment is all that matters, the bhav, what we say. And on that you will build your life of japa and meditation. So all these are important. See, the Gayatri chanting, which the other question asked, that is such a powerful way of ushering the highest meditation. Because the intellect is clouded, it's trying to open the intellect through the chanting of the mantra. So all these are very powerful aids, none of which are to be dispensed with. Just because I am reading the Upanishads, I will not do Karma Yoga, I will not do Gayatri. Don't do all this. All of this is very important to develop that insight which will take you into the knowledge of Brahman. And without this, the mind will not develop that. Please know this for certain. The whole process of spiritual striving is about purification of mind. And it only comes through these rituals, this chanting, the daily meditation practice, the Vedanta Vichar, inquiry. Through all of this it comes. And the final moment of illumination has to come by itself when the mind is sufficiently prepared through all this. So never judge or try to compare or put a yoga into a kind of, don't do all this at all. Don't compare it. Just adopt the technique and you will see the fruit of it. So I am glad you are thinking so much about all this. There are such interesting questions. We will continue with our study next Sunday. We will be available here in Pangot for a few months now. So we will have the class every Sunday, and I hope there will be, it will be a continuous process every Sunday. So please join us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.